person. So was this really different from what was done last year? Is that kind of?
It's a little bit different, yeah, I mean, this is last year's version.
Okay.
That's the update.
Okay, that's, yeah. Since I don't know anything about last year's, I was
Why
really.
didn't you? Thank you.
I'm going to give mine verbally, and these are the changes, the mostly
So
punctuation,
we can actually turn it on.
and a couple of, not typos, we didn't complete the names. But that's how we said it, but nobody will know who
I
we're
had y'all
talking
talk about
about.
the 10-year plan.
Yeah, and I wrote something down.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. So can I, are you okay with me handing this out to the rest of them?
I'll have to turn this one. That is precision,
They've done the grant. We can just.
We can just add.
We can just speak to them.
Okay, here, this is what.
Whatever makes you happy, Mr. Ross.
That's on my corner, just as it is so far.
Will you
Okay.
sign that and have that sign as well? Mr. Bush, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Call this meeting to order.
Roll
Start,
Roll call.
roll call.
Okay. Mr. Rowland is absent. Mr. Bush here. Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Waller.
Present.
Ms. Ross.
Here.
Ms. Hunter.
Present,
And absent. Yes, present.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak?
I had sent you an email with 4 items on it, and I see 3 of them are on the agenda, so, but I would like to just touch on them briefly.
Please.
Bringing sleds to the landfill has always been a concern, and back in September, October of '21 is when Madisonville brought it, and we extended the opportunity for that. In reading the customer activity report, there's Waste Services Tennessee LLC, R/C, that brought in 178 tons. It's on page 2 of 8. You can address that when you get to that in the portion that Republic will talk about. Tipping fees, there's nothing in the package regarding the tipping fees, which were supposed to be delivered to us in the month of June before they went into effect. And one of the things that's also on the customer activity report is charging the local entities $20 for each mattress. If I remember correctly, that was supposed to be excluded Loudon, North City, and the county. I'd like to talk about that when it comes up in the tipping fees. As a part 2 update, I'm not sure what all was going to be presented because I don't see much in the package. was an awful lot of material in the files that you sent, engineering stuff. I'm not sure how it plays in. And the final fourth thing that I wanted to talk about was the bond. In July of 21 or 22, the bond that was offered had the same combination, if you will, of the 1 million operating and the 8.4 closure. We requested at that time that they split that out, and on a subsequent letter, which I can't find a date on, please find the enclosed increased penalty rider with a bond for 1 million and the 8 million. They are separate. The operating bond is intended if the operator disappears for whatever reason, and TDEX comes in and says, you guys are now in charge, and you need this $1 million to bridge you from their leaving to whatever you're gonna do next. The 8.4 is intended for, depending on when this occurs, how many of the cells, CD 1, 2, 3, and 4, have been closed prior to 2038. Now, that brings you into the backside of why the 8.4. Again, in September, I think it was 22, or 21, 21. We had talked about 4.5 million. And then the state's controller came down and sent a letter to the mayor and jacked it up to the 13.4. Based on interest, based on inflation, based on material costs, and that 8.4 covers you through 2027. Now, our contract has changed all of that with CD1, CD2, CD3, CD4. CD1 will be done by 2027. That's the eastern slope of the landfill. 2, 3, and 4 are on the western slope and adjacent to modules 1, 2, 3, which is part of the 53 expansion. So therefore, it'll be 2034, 2036 before they get covered in full. I'm not questioning buying the bond. I'm questioning eventually the state's gonna come back and say, wait a minute, we now have you pushed out to 2038, and that original 8.4 covered 41.7, closed on 2027. We're going beyond that, and I fully expect that that's gonna happen, and I'm not sure whether we should reach out to them and ask them, or just wait till they drop the rock on your head. But
I may be wrong, but if that number increases, your bond increases. Correct?
appropriately,
Yes.
we just gotta wait and find out. But separating what was offered on May 12th at 9.4, one bond should be split in two, 1 million and 8.4, like we did last summer.
The letter breaks it down that we got from them. It breaks it down that we got from the Republic.
Not this letter, which came from the bond.
I saw something that breaks it down. I would have to find it.
You might have saw it last year.
I'll ask the finance office for you.
The one I'm referring to is carrying a May 12th, 23 days. If there's another one beyond this,
I'll check with the finance office.
yeah, okay,
Back to you, yeah.
thank you.
Ms. Fritz, that email finally went through, so you should have it.
Yes, but may I speak?
Please.
Good evening, my name is Michelle Fritz. A lot of the questions I had also, Mr. Anglin addressed. One of them was the customer activity report, and why we're not getting that in the packet ahead of time. Because, I mean, I've not had time to look at this or any of the information ahead of time that I may have question on. Also, the agenda seems to be quite full, and I'm afraid that with a agenda that packed with things, that we are not going to be able to address everything appropriately or within a time frame. And wondering why that the workshops are not being, actually had somebody show up for the workshop, was it last week or the week before, that they didn't know that it had been canceled. And I myself showed up for one earlier that had been canceled that I didn't know about. So I feel like the workshops are very important, and that will preclude a lot of this that's, you know, with the agenda, things not being in the packet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a package for our side?
Do what?
Do you have a package handout for our side?
It's all online.
Sorry?
It's all online. I just print out the actual agenda. I'm not wasting paper. Anybody else? Larry, come on, man. Nothing?
I do have a question.
Come up here and talk to us.
We're supposed to, if you know me, I'm Larry Jameson. I'm kind of curious since the expansion contract went in place, how much money has been generated from probably June of 22 through this year to how much that is stuck in with this extension. And second of all, you know me primarily because I fuss about the road. And I'll give you a run for your money on your road. The road does better and it does bad. It does better, it does bad. I get phone calls still about the road, and so I try to forward my concerns on to Mr. Hall and Mr. Walter so that they can be properly addressed. The one concern that I did have was about the gate being left open this past weekend. I just reported it to you guys, so that it does. And it ain't that they're gonna go in and steal garbage out, we know that, so, but it should be secured.
As soon as I talked to Dave, he fixed it immediately after we talked, and
Okay.
if he wants to explain the situation, he's welcome to.
Well, again, it was open through Saturday night and Sunday morning on the way to church, I checked it again, so.
Yeah,
Again,
that's Saturday, that's my bad. I thought I said something to Teresa
Stuff
and it
happens,
just
I understand.
didn't go out, so, and I didn't check.
but that's all I got. Thank you all.
Thanks, Larry. Everybody received the July 20th minutes, and I know that Gary made a lot of changes.
A few changes.
Well, I meant before you sent to us, and there's a few more changes.
I have some changes.
Pat,
Moving forward, can we make sure all those are done before we have voting meetings?
I think I will make mine in public the way we should,
Fair enough.
so. That's how county commission does it, and that's how I will do it. I'll go by the rules. I did give Mr. Bush a copy of my changes, mostly they're typos. On page 2, it says Chairman Mr. Waller requested motion to approve, it was reapprove. And the motion that was made by Mr. Hall, I went back and looked at the video, it specifically said reapprove. With the paragraph above, it mentions Ms. Murphy is working with Richard. I think it should say Mr. Richard Hill, so everybody knows who we're talking about. With regards to the first period above where it says Ms. Hunter raised questions related to Mr. Anklin's public question regarding additional sludge being brought to the landfill by Anderson County. At the end of that sentence where it says Mr. Hollingshead will look into and provide follow-up to LCS WDC at August 10th workshop, Ms. Hunter commented that it was a violation of the contract and to notify Ms. Murphy. I want that inserted. The last period, Mr. Hollingshead airspace was updated in June. Chairman, Mr. Waller, questioned if, and that is, it said Mike, it should be Mr. Mike Klassen. On page 3, it's mostly periods after each dot. There should be a period after each one. And when it mentions Chairman Mr. Waller continues to work on the financials related to audit and Miss Elizabeth Murphy. And also where we're talking about Mr. Hall, request to Miss Elizabeth Murphy. I think it should be a complete name. The others were periods, and I handed those to Mr. Bush. So those are my corrections.
So that's the motion to approve the minutes from you with your corrections?
And as amended, yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No expenses? No workshopping committee? Well, I know there's the 10-year report coming up, so there's that. Financials are in the pack. Are there any questions about the financials?
I just had all the money we're spending for the audit review, but I got the answer tonight.
Perfect,
So
there you
this
go.
is good. Thank you.
You all should have the audit verbiage in front of you. Are there any questions? I know when I spoke to Elizabeth today, the numbers here on existing section 1 may change a little bit for Mr. Hill, and he's reviewing those, and I are going back and forth this afternoon. But everything else under, right here, H, and under section 2 here, they're both comfortable with. So I'd like a motion to amend, or to approve the audit corrections, with the understanding that the numbers here, future liabilities may change a little bit once Mr. Hill plugs in his numbers correctly.
Where's that at?
Just right here on the first page, there's a few numbers that may change right here. Just a little bit, 5.7 or 221 or 113,
Okay.
so.
When was this information received? When did you receive this?
Late last night or early this morning.
Well, my internet went off at 11:30 and I had not received this. I'm going to vote no. I can't vote on anything that is handed to me at a meeting without having to look it over and ask questions. I'm gonna be a no vote. I'm sorry.
That's fine. You're welcome to vote no on anything.
I will.
I have a motion first. And we can delay it until September. That's fine if we want to delay it and give people more time to read it. We just need it in, technically it should have been back in December if we really want to get down to it. And it's still not done. So,
You need to talk to Mr. Hill about that.
well, I'm talking to the previous chair about that. So,
Well, I'm telling you that I have the packet from May. We've been working on this verbiage since May.
it should have been done in December, but anyway.
Mr. Hill didn't even start on the audit, Mr. Waller.
It was due in December. Do we want to wait till September and
I've
read over
read it, and I'd make a motion that we approve it.
Okay. Is there a second?
Still reading it.
So she's been working with Mr. Hill.
Correct, yes.
all
They've
these,
been going back and
they
forth.
have
Yes,
talked
correct,
over
absolutely.
all of these changes, and he's agreeable to these.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're kind of tenuous because we're late on this, is that right? with
We
the
are late.
controller?
But we can wait till September if that would make everybody more comfortable.
I'm gonna second, so we can go.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Ms. Ross?
Give me another minute.
Oh, you're good, sorry.
I'm gonna, because of the discussion between the two, I'm gonna say aye.
I can't hear.
Okay, I'm sorry. Because, can you hear me now with that pushed? Is that right? No? Okay, I'll just say very loudly, because of the discussion that was going on between Ms. Murphy and Mr. Hill, and they agreed on all of this, and we are kind of on the clock, I'm going to say I voted yes.
Ms. Hunter?
I'm going to vote no for the following reasons. The commission was not privy to those discussions, and handing it to us at the meeting is unacceptable. I vote no.
Thank you.
I don't see anything in there. For the same reason that Monty said, I'll vote yes on this.
I'll vote aye as well.
We're having a hard time
We
here.
can't hear him.
He voted aye. I voted aye.
I voted aye, for the same reasons that Monty Ross did.
4-1. 10-year report update. I know that Gary and Monty have been working with different agencies on what we need to do to update our 10-year report. So either one of you want to give us an update, please?
Well, I wrote a little blurb to give to each of you, and I'm sorry if it came today, but anyway, it just says what we talked to Christina Perez
Yeah.
and,
I would read this since the public's here,
okay,
if you want to read it.
I even have extras if you want to make copies, but I can do that. Do you want me to I'll just read it. On Friday, August 11th, Gary Bush and Monty Ross had a video call with TDEC, Christina Perez, and Amy Catcher. Christina had sent us a handbook on solid waste board responsibilities and 3 10-year plan updates from 2019, 2021, and 2022. They all said the same thing, and they were written by Tim Hendrick, who, and that's with ETAD, I did not put that in there, who signed for Chris Parks. They only mentioned adding household hazardous waste to the convenience centers, which has been done. Amy and Christina said TDEC was updating their state plan, the TDEC plan, to be completed in 24-25. There are objectives in the handbook that will not change, but an additional objective will be included. They suggested that we meet with Tim Hendricks at ETAD, which I spelled wrong, and see if he would be willing to help in writing our plan. Gary asked if we could be working on our plan concurrently with TDEC's update, and Amy and Christina agreed that would be a good idea. We will be able to pull some information from the 94 plan, but mostly it will be a rewrite and update. They suggest we work with Tim, but wait until next March when grant funds will be available to request anything that will require costs. We will schedule a meeting with Tim before the September meeting. Now that we have established communication lines with them, they have committed to helping us as much as possible and will be available to answer our questions. And Gary had a couple of additions to that information.
Well, just the fact that in our discussions, that there's a number of grants that are available for doing the 10-year plan that we were totally aware of. One's about $25,000 grant, which allows for data collection and the analysis of the data. Then there's a technical side that allows for grant money, which is whenever you come in there for different things, and that grant money is related to your recycling centers and the equipment that you may need to implement the plan. So knowing that, it's just a bit of information that we are trying to align the timing to have stuff ready that we can also put in for potential grants for 2024 at the proper time.
And what I'll do is
And the other point that we've talked about on the 10-year plan is the county is going through a development, basically a DEA plan for growth. We want to make sure, we talked about it, make sure we're aligning what we're doing here, that we know as close to as possible as what the growth plan for Loudon County is going to be, a combination of industry and residential, so we can plan properly with how the landfill, how much potential waste could be going into that landfill with the growth of the county, especially within 75-mile radius type on the current ground contract.
And what I'll do is I'll edit this and include your additional points and send that to you for the minutes, so you can just kind of.
As an attachment, yeah.
Okay, so, and we're going to, we're gonna start going ahead and working with Tim and looking at other organizations and to see what they do. Especially there was one thing about the composting area. And there are other, does Republic have composting areas under there? So we could be talking to them to see how that works. And we can just find out those things that we're interested in putting in our plan. And we can say, okay, what do you do already? So we can do some benchmarking with that and with some other business, landfill businesses. So
Thank you both for doing that. And I know it's a long road to hoe, but we'll get there.
yes.
Equipment rodeo, you want to tell us about the equipment rodeo that y'all
Excuse
have?
me.
Yeah.
Ms. Ross, I'm gonna make a request that whenever you have meetings, that you notice the meetings to the public so they are able to attend.
Well, it was a video. It was just it was just, I don't know how to do that. Well, it's not a,
These are just fact
we
finding.
were just
so these
fact
are not
finding. We
any
were not making any
deliberating or
decisions or
debating. These
anything
are
like
just
that.
fact
That's right.
finding
So I think,
outings.
I'll run it through the Office of Open Records Council and see if that's legal.
okay, I'm hoping as long as we report what was said, that should be sufficient, because it is just a fact finding thing. But that's something to
I'll check.
check.
I want to go back to the workshops and committee meetings, because we were supposed to have the consultant at the last meeting, and I think it's very important to hear from the consultant.
We're getting there in the part 2 update.
Well, but it was also supposed to be discussed at the workshop, which you cancel without explanation. And I think that, I know Republic wants to move forward, we want to move forward, but we can't move forward if we don't have information, and I'm sure they want to hear as well. And also, I think that we need to notice the public and be a little bit more considerate of the public, rather than telling them at 11:30 Thursday that the meeting has been canceled at 4. I'm sorry, no one's talking about the public, but we are a public body and we serve the public. And we should not be inconsiderate of the public.
Thank you. Tell us about your equipment rodeo for your employees.
Saturday, September 16th, Mr. Klassen's business unit is having an equipment rodeo for all of the operators within that business unit. Also included in that rodeo will be operators from Huntsville, Alabama and Birmingham, Alabama. It's an annual thing that happens, and with that, we are making a one-time request that you all allow us to shut down the Loudon landfill on Saturday, September 16th, so Ms. Fox's operators can attend that rodeo and be part of that day for the operators in Mr. Klassen's business unit. It's to celebrate the operators, because those are the guys that do the hard work. Those guys do the work.
I think it's awesome.
So we would just, and Teresa's, I'm sure she's got a plan that she can speak to stay open late if she needs to on Monday and Tuesday, and I'll be quiet after that, but that's our request, is to allow those guys to attend that rodeo in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, to celebrate what they do every day for a living.
What's the date on that?
Saturday, September 16th.
Okay, so what will be the advance notice to customers?
We'll get something in the window tomorrow if it's approved.
Okay.
So I'll need a motion and a second, and we'll have to have a vote on that to make sure.
I'll make a motion that we shut it down.
Perfect.
And no, as long as the public is notified.
There'll be, like I said, there'll be notice in the window tomorrow.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm gonna abstain. I want to make sure that the public is noticed, that our regulars are noticed. I think it's a good idea for them to do it, but on the other hand, I want everyone to know, the stakeholders, the public to know far in advance that it's gonna happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for publicizing it, like you said you would. Loudon County Solid Waste Disposal Commission, Ms. Hunter had the bright idea for Mr. Bush to do the minutes, and Republic is compensating him $100 per meeting for doing so, and I think he's doing a fine job. The cleanest way to do that is for them to pay the Solid Waste Commission an extra $100 a month, and the Finance Department is gonna pay him the additional $100 a month through his regular paycheck that we supplement, stipend, whatever we get. So we just need to vote that we're okay with him receiving the $100 extra each month for his duties of keeping minutes, which the extra $100 is coming from Republic every month.
Is it for the workshop too?
We don't keep minutes at workshops.
I'm sorry?
We don't keep minutes at workshops.
Oh, all right.
I'll make a motion that we do that.
I'll second. Yeah.
As Henry says, it involves minute or money, so let's do a roll call vote.
Mr. Hall,
Who made
Aye.
the second? I'm sorry.
Gary,
Gary?
not Gary,
No.
I'm sorry, David.
Mr. Hall?
Aye, yay, whichever.
okay, Mr. Waller,
Aye.
Ms. Ross,
Aye.
Ms. Hunter,
I'm going to vote no. I think it's a good idea, but when we talked about this back during the budget process in 2022, we had a concern, Ms. Bivens and I, and actually Coach, I think, had a concern about the fact that it is written into our contract, that they are contractually obligated. I'm wondering if we're gonna have to put some verbiage in there that says that both parties agree to this. I'd like for Ms. Murphy to look at it because it is in the contract. And while I think it's a good idea.
It was your idea.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's my idea to give him, to pay him an extra $75, I believe,
It's
from our
$100,
funds.
but yes.
But what I'm saying at that point, we were going to be doing it out of our funds. I'm just concerned with the fact that we're altering the contract. That's the only thing. I want Ms. Murphy to look at that, and if she says we can make a little amendment, we both agree, I'm fine with that.
Motion passes 4-1 to pay Gary the $100 that they're paying to the county. Part 2 update. I know the last workshop was canceled due to some scheduling issues, but at the next workshop, the 14th, the consultant will be on a call. I've asked for Mike to be on the call. I got an email drafted to send you all tonight with how the process is going to go, with the need for questions to be prepared to ask. I know that Republic, if you have any questions for them about Part 2, we need to submit those by the 1st of September so they can have time to prepare responses. And this will be our time at the next workshop in September to really ask any questions we have about the Part 2. So then we'll vote at the voting meeting in September.
Will there be any type of reporting from the technical consultant on what he did, what he reviewed, what his perceptions were any comments? I mean, he's the expert, we're not.
That'll all be
And we may
discussed.
have questions, but if all he's doing is answering our questions, that's not what we signed up for. We signed up for a technical expert to look at that application and give us his honest opinion of whether it was compliant and consistent and thorough. So I think the onus is on him to report, not on us to ask questions.
I'm gonna
So that's
agree.
my beef with it.
I'm gonna agree with Mr. Hall. I went back and I looked at that video when we hired him, and the entire committee, the entire commission was supposed to be involved. He was going to review all the documents, and I've noticed that we have paid him several $1,000s, and a report is due. We need to know now before the 14th, so we can ask some questions and be informed. Everyone wants to know what's going on, and most especially us, since we are going to approve this. So I hope that we have a written report, and before the 14th. I want to be able to look at it, digest it, and if I have any questions, or any of us have any questions, we need to be prepared. And I'm sure Republic wants to see the same documentation so they can be prepared to address it.
I'll pass that along.
So will he be reviewing the modified Part 2 amendment, or is he giving us feedback on the original Part 2 amendment?
Modified,
Okay,
which he has.
all right.
Any other questions? Comments, concerns?
When last month, we asked specifically if there were any issues that he raised regarding the amendment that were, I'll call them showstoppers, or serious issues, that those did not need to wait until we had the meeting. They needed to be flagged to us as soon as possible so that we could get Republic engaged on resolving those. So I'm assuming that still stands. We haven't heard anything from him, and he's been looking at this for 2 months. So I'm expecting a report that has, very, very limited issues and nothing that, that's, otherwise, he's wasted time. We've wasted time, which we don't have.
Noted. Anything else on Part 2? Sludge update. Tell us about that sludge issue.
The sludge in question last month, that listed Anderson County in the origin report, was a clerical issue. I was on vacation that week after the meeting. Thank you, sir. And got back that next week and started digging into it. And it did take a few minutes, quite frankly, but once I started matching up some tons and where it was and what was going on, I didn't look. I had Teresa do it because she's in that deep in trucks and has that type of operational, can do that. But what happened with that was when the Madisonville sludge got set up, it was set up under Anderson County, and it should have been set up under Monroe County. So the sludge in question last month is not illegal and is not in violation of the contract.
Thank you. Any questions?
So we're not receiving any sludge from Anderson County?
No, ma'am.
So going forward, we'll be notified in advance if there's any changes. If somebody new in the area is gonna bring sludge in.
If any new sludge comes to this landfill, it will come before this committee first. Out of county. Yes.
Thank you. The semi-annual groundwater monitoring report, everybody has that. It's online, if somebody wants it. It's this thick right here, so
267 pages.
I won't be printing that out for anybody. Any questions?
Were there any anomalies reported?
No, just a very consistent report for us. nothing different from the last semi-annual event.
Tipping fees?
I believe we were asked specifically who was increased and how much. There you are. There you go.
So do all these trace back to the CPI change?
Between 4.36 and 4.62, yes.
Okay, and what's the difference between the 3.6 and the 6.2? What determines that?
Larger customers, smaller customers.
Okay.
Now, is it $24.72 plus
Yes,
the
$1.25.
$1.25?
I just note for the record that under the contract, the CPI change is an automatic fee adjustment on tipping fees. It's not subject to commission approval. So it's written into the contract. Right, Larry?
Correct. And I'll ma-
I know you know it.
Yeah, and I'll make a note that I verified the CPI numbers, so. So in the numbers that were increased match with the CPI.
Any other questions? Want to go through your operations report for us?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before you go on, I'd like to go back to this list. I didn't get an answer to what I presented to you in public comment. Now, Madisonville, the city of Sludge, is on page 7 of 8. No issue. But on page 2 of 8 is Waste Services of Tennessee LLC R/C brought 178 tons of sludge. Who are they and where did it come from?
That's another question. I'll research it.
So isn't Waste Services of Tennessee you guys?
It
Yeah.
is.
So that's all in-county from a variety of different customers.
I'm sorry?
It's all in-county from a
Yeah.
variety of different customers.
And then on pages one of 8, the North City mattresses, 45. City of Loudon mattresses, 32. Why are they being charged? They're part of the agreement. That was settled in September, October of 21, when we originally allowed $20 per mattress. That the 3 entities, the county, cities, would not get that $20 charge. And now we're charging it. Is that on net tipping fees?
I'll check and find out.
I'll take an action and look at contract change and see what it says.
Thank you. We'll get back to you in September, Rich.
All right.
I want to talk about this when we get to the
If I was
customer
Lower
activity
City, I'd be
report.
screaming bloody murder about that $1,600 fee.
Let's start with your operation with tonnage reports and let's just go through that.
Everything is standard. Tonnage reports, everything is standard in the normal package.
Customer activity report?
Yes.
Yes, I want to talk about the customer activity report. I went back and looked at the minutes. Mr. Jameson was on the commission with me when we were approached by Santec at the meeting to increase the mattress fee from $7 to $20. And we were told, because I specifically asked, if mattresses are taken to the convenience center, are we going to be charged? And the answer was no. The charge would be if someone went to the landfill, an ordinary person, a company, they would be charged the $20. What we were gonna be charged was the tipping fee for hauling it over there with the rest of our garbage. And I have talked to at least one stakeholder who informed me that this charge is new. I went back and looked since September of '21. I think it went into effect in October of '21. But I went back and looked. We have not been, none of the stakeholders have been charged.
Ms. Hunter, this has already been resolved.
What do you mean this has been resolved?
The convenience center is paying for mattresses, that's no longer an issue.
So are they,
Moving forward.
but they were charged in July for something they were not supposed to be charged.
And we discussed it and it's been resolved.
How has it been resolved? Are they going to get a refund?
I expect a refund and then we're not being charged moving forward from the convenience center mattresses. That's been resolved.
Okay, so any of the entities that were charged in July will be getting a refund.
Convenience centers.
The convenience centers and the stakeholders, the three stakeholders.
I can only address the convenience centers that are paid for by the county.
Well, we have stakeholders, we have Lenore City and Loudon, and Lenore City was charged for 45 mattresses. The city of Loudon was charged for 32 mattresses. All three are stakeholders, the county and the cities. Are they all
Mr. Hall's
going
looking
to?
into it, but I know the convenience centers are no longer paying for mattresses coming from the convenience
I
centers.
don't even think they'll accept them. I mean, I've gotta go look at it, but my recollection was they don't accept mattresses.
Convenience centers do accept them and they compact them in the compactors.
Okay,
So,
I thought I saw a sign.
Larry,
I'm one of the contributors of mattresses. And today, I really got a shocker. I sent, the city had been getting mine and didn't charge for it. They had called me about it. But today I sent it over there in, a dandy dump, dumped off 16, paid $320, which is $20 a mattress. So that's it was a cash deal with the Republic. So I kinda got sticker shocked on that one. But as of today, they're charging $20.
and that was just you going to landfill as a private citizen.
I turn about 10 to 15 mattresses every week.
Why do you need so many mattresses?
Well, I got some dirty people. No, we rotate the trucks through and we don't allow to use no additional.
I forgot about the trucks.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Mr. Jameson, but have you been charged by the city of Loudon when you were dropping them off at your
No,
business?
no, I have not.
So are they still accepting them, or are you having to take them to the landfill?
They are still accepting them, and the problem is they're so far behind with brush and everything else that they're using their truck for. I volunteered to help with mine, to help them move forward. And that's how this kinda, ironically, today.
Okay.
So,
Dave's gonna look into it.
Yeah.
But I know the county's convenience centers are not being charged for mattresses. Because it was brought to my attention, and I called and resolved. Thank you for looking at that. Any other customer activity report questions? Materials classification report? Any questions?
Analysis tire report. The monthly letter with the addition of the $100, so that it is clearly seen. Airspace utilization, which did not change because that's a quarterly report. And then the July inspection.
Any notice violations?
Just 2 AOCs, I think, no notice of violations.
And then
How
what-
will these AOCs be resolved? How will this be addressed?
Unsatisfactory litter control is flagging on the landfill. We had additional dirt hauled in, and we'll just cover that with dirt. That's how we solve that one. That's in progress right now. And again, unsatisfactory intermediate cover goes along with that. Once I address the intermediate cover, that will solve the flagging problem.
And what about the tires? What's the problem there?
What's the issues with tires, Ms. Hunter?
Pardon?
What's the issues with tires?
We had an AOC on the tires. Something about managing the tires, or I'd like that addressed.
The person that brings the tires in, they're tire shreds actually. They're shredded up into pieces, and when they haul them on the road, sometimes they fall off the top. So I myself personally was out there today picking them up off the road. So it'll be ongoing, but that's interesting.
Do they not cover do they not have a cover on?
We also use those for things, so when they're placed at different spots on the landfill, it's just a matter of,
Right, oh,
yeah, just falling off
we
the
saw
top,
those, that pile today, so.
but we get them as we see them.
Any other questions? Corrective action plan update from,
Y'all got a copy of the corrective action plan dated August 10th, and that should be the end of the corrective action plan. Everything has been updated.
thank you much. Any questions? Action items? Go ahead.
I have a question with regards to action item. I know we're
Please.
going to get a report from the consultant. What about from Ms. Murphy? We've been billed between the consultant and Ms. Murphy nearly $17,000. I'd like to see what has been done. If it has anything to do with this permit, I'd like to see something in writing.
Okay. Action items, I'm gonna talk to TDEC about bond value for Rich, and about the bond split. I'm gonna get financial breakdown for Larry from June through this June. You're gonna check on mattresses. Anything else? I know you two are still working on the 10-year update. Thank you. What else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Nobody wants to call?
Everybody wants to stay. You're welcome to stay. I'll leave eventually, but y'all are welcome to stay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Go home.
And I will send it to you.
Thank you.
This was a handbook that was given to us by TDEC, so I'm gonna send it to Adam and let him look through it.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
So you're getting charged a dumping fee, huh?
Well, he needs to take it to the cities, what he needs to do. That's the trick.
Yeah. Sticker
Much of a
shock
nice
today.
Is it Loudon Convenience Center?
No, most times I've seen fix them up.
According to it,
Of course, they count
it has always, yeah.
Tell me whether fix and start charging.
No, they're the ones, I mean, you guys work hard there, but they're the ones out there really
It's a
work
deal,
hard.
send it on too.
They deserve it.
I do.
No,
I mean,
thank
they
you.
Two and two
had
together.
a lineman rodeo for
They
SCD.
dandy
I
dumped
just
them
think
out.
it's very cool.
Next thing you know, they're gonna get it.
Just make sure it's noticed.
I think
But I understand.
they terrify us.
And you may want to put something by the gate that's a little bigger. We can have something made. Not be
You
personal.
contract, right, right, right. Is that addressed
And
in
it's
the
a
contract?
month.
I'll look,
Well, bring some pictures back and report back on the rodeo too. That'd be-
And if they win,
See?
we need to know.
Let's kick that Alabama tail end.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. My interest level has gone down significantly. We get the damn expansion thing.
It's gonna be $32. They want to give us $32.
The city, Waste Authority or whoever it is now.
Yeah.
They can
And he
have
said, and they just took it, and I went,
it. Yeah.
okay.
I did go look at
You know, I
the,
guess,
and I
I'll
traded
give you
emails.
guys
to hear about it
She's
again.
not
So
gonna
I
get
don't
on
know.
it.
Yeah, hey, it's,
She's not gonna
everybody,
say-
everybody gotta be accountable, and make sure.
Well, we paid a lot of money. and so
Oh,
now
yeah,
it's going-
yeah, I could tell that, you know,
My garages were up.
my sympathy level is
That's
kind of
unacceptable.
pushed because our roads in that subdivision are just as
It's
bad.
bad, yeah.
All right, well, we
All
better
the
week, happy
construction,
Friday.
everything
Guess what,
going
we're
on.
there, so
It's,
that's good.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
See
we
you
got
guys.
basically
Thank y'all
the
very
same
much.
kind of
See
road
you,
sweeper
thank you.
going up and down the